Welcome to YACC Live 2024. Featuring guests Ashley Wendland, Carolyn Van, Danny Roulette, Danny Taylor, Gret Calicorn, Carl Eric Sunvisit, with Jeff Eaton, and Mike Daw. Music by David and Joseph Neal. Hosted by Joseph Neal. And now your host, Joseph Neal.
Welcome to YACC Live 2024. My name is Joseph Neal and I will be your host. I'm so happy to be here this evening, more happy now that spring is finally springing here in Toronto. I'm a lung cancer survivor and was diagnosed back in 2012, a whopping 12 years ago. To describe myself, I am a 33-year-old sporting dreadlocks of African Trinidadian descent. I have on glasses and a black t-shirt. I'm so lucky to be connected with the YACC community back in 2014 and attended the Retreat Yourself Ontario in April of 2015. There I met individuals with a shared experience that I could truly connect with, and for that I am truly grateful. Thank you to all the guests who will be contributing to the show, to health professionals who have referred us, and to all the incredible partners helping us make this show possible. Shout out to everyone watching the show together in one of the local life cities: St. John's, Ottawa, Toronto, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, Victoria. Also amazing to have people in Halifax who got together thanks to the support of the Canadian Cancer Society, who gave us a space in both Halifax and Vancouver. Thank you to Wellsprings for their space in Calgary and Edmonton. And shout out to also everyone watching anywhere else in Canada. Australia, Japan, we are so international. If you are new to YACC, welcome. And if you need anything, YACC's got your back. Tonight we have an amazing lineup of YACCers who met online or in person to have some conversations about life, cancer, mental and physical recovery, travel, and so much more. We also will hear the beautiful words of Danny Roulette, who took part in the Writing It Out chat series. And I, your host, will try and keep you entertained. What is YACC Live anyways? YACC Live is the renewed version of what used to be called the Big Cancer Hookup. It's a show that wants to highlight our community members and speak of what it means to have been diagnosed with cancer before the age of 40. It's a show that shares stories and some laughs, a show where we talk about how it takes longer to recover from cancer than it is to be treated for it. A show that makes us feel connected wherever we are. We are pumped to have you here and hope you enjoy the show. All right, now we're all set. I will pass it to two amazing women who are in different time zones, but in very similar life stages. Ashley joins us from Australia and Gret from Japan. They will talk about recovery and how to navigate it while living overseas.
Hi.
Perfect. Hi, great. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Ashley?
Good. So I was diagnosed with ocular melanoma when I was 27. It was 2017. I was living in the Canadian Arctic at the time, and I've sort of been, I guess, part of YACC since that journey, or since the start of that journey. So a few years now, which is wild to think, but I honestly have, that whole community to thank for getting me to where I am now.
That's amazing.
And I will say, I am currently in a sort of dingy hotel room in Sydney. I'm wearing a white t-shirt and I have long blonde hair. What about you, Greet?
Me? All right. So my name is Gret. I'm originally
Sorry,
Estonian. It's okay. Don't worry.
Totally.
Everyone does it. So I'm Estonian. And I moved to Canada 2018, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer 2020, then again in 2021, and then again in 2022. So I've been cancer free now 2 years. Um, yeah, and I've got PALB2, so the chances of me getting cancer is very high,
Mm-hmm.
as it's proven that to be true anyway. I am also blonde, I guess a bit shorter hair than you, and I am sitting in my hand knitted sweater in a very traditional Japanese room with some paper, what are they called? Screens
Say like
on the
curtains, yeah.
background. Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, as far as moving to a new country and sort of
Hmm.
navigating, post cancer now that you're 2 years out, um,
Yes.
how has that journey sort of been for you?
Um, I think I was really kind of nervous, um, moving up to the point of like maybe 2 or 3 months before the move. There was no clear, like, how am I gonna have an oncologist? I need to get like injections every 30 days. So I don't really have a like choice. I have to have my medication to be able to suppress the hormones in my body. And so I knew that I needed healthcare and I needed oncologist, even if I moved to wherever I was going to move. But I was fortunate enough that it's my husband's job that provided healthcare, and his colleagues that work in a university managed to get me an oncologist. So I was just kind of, lucky. But I
Mhm.
hear you had a completely different kind of welcome to Australia story.
Experience with that. Yeah, so I think after so I would have been 3 years out from cancer when I moved here. So it wasn't quite at that, 5 year, things can maybe slow down as far as screening goes yet. And again, you sort of finish treatment and you're like, I am invincible. I'm not going to let cancer define me. I'm going to go to Australia and I'll figure it out when I get there because, love of my life is there I'm going. And then I land and I'm like, okay, so reality is set in and like I definitely need to keep on top of my appointments and, I'm not in the clear. You're never in the clear. So I went and saw, cause I had cancer in my eye. So I went and saw an eye doctor or a optometrist. And they said, okay, had to pay for that. And then they said, we're going to refer you to pretty much the only ocular oncologist in Brisbane. I think everybody goes to see this guy. And I went there and, I don't qualify for Australian Medicare because I'm not a citizen and I came in on a working holiday visa. So you have absolutely no privileges there. And I had to pay for private health insurance that only covered, actually, it didn't cover any pre-existing conditions. So I was basically paying for nothing, thinking the whole time that I might have been able to reap some of those sort of benefits, but nothing. So my initial oncology appointment was probably 500 and something dollars, and then of course I had to pay for an MRI. And I remember actually speaking to the ladies at the radiation clinic or at the radiology clinic saying, I have to pay for this MRI out of pocket. And I think they gave it to me at the price that Medicare would have covered it. So I might have had it half price. But again, this is just me having a meltdown being like, why have I come to this country where I have no health benefits? Like what happens if my cancer comes back? I've left Canada. I'm no longer a tax paying resident of Canada. Do I have to now go back and work for 3 months before I can have Canadian health care? It was just a weird place to be. So I sort of thought, okay, after I get through my first year in the country, I'll be on a partner visa and then I'll be able to have, Medicare benefits. So it was that first year that was really difficult for me. And, I remember thinking with the money I've spent on these appointments, I could have taken a holiday or, done something far more exciting. But I'm like, here I am, not even 30 yet. Or I think I just turned 30. And I'm like, these thousands of dollars I've had to pay on cancer monitoring, which is super frustrating. But I will say, really like the oncologist. I was super worried that because I had such a good experience with my oncologist in Canada, that my oncologist in Australia just wasn't going to compare. But he's wonderful, and the whole team is wonderful. And there are a few more ocular melanoma patients in Australia than there are in Canada, I believe. I seem to have met more sort of in support groups that are based here, which is good because there seems to be a community here. Um, so I don't feel, I guess, so alone or so isolated. Definitely not as isolated as I was in the Arctic.
And
Hmm.
how do you, like in the beginning, I guess like the mental health aspect of it, like the anxiety of like having to be out of pocket and also like trying to enjoy life? Because I feel like there's a very two different balancing act. Like how do you deal with both of them at the same time?
That part was tricky, right? Because, like I said, you sort of, if we're talking about this theme of recovery, like after I got through my treatment, I was like, yes, I'm going to live my best life, absolutely. And then this like stupid little, cancer bug sort of follows you, and you're just like, right, I actually do need to keep monitoring this. This is awful. So you're trying to live your best life, but you're also having to fork out all this money for something that you didn't choose to have. Um, and there was for me, I guess the biggest anxiety was I really, really hope this cancer doesn't come back because I'm going to be out of pocket a lot of money if I have to pay for cancer treatment here or in Canada, because at that point I felt like I had absolutely no public health options. I would have had to pay it out of pocket. So thank goodness I was very relieved when my MRI came back that I had no mets and that my eye was stable and the tumors, shrunk still, you know, as it should be. So I've actually got in 2 weeks' time my next appointment, my sort of yearly check with my ocular oncologist. And again, I go the year where I'm like, I feel good. About 6 months ago, I felt my eye was getting a bit more blurry, and turns out I have a cataract. At 34 years old, which I'll deal with at some point. It's not cancer, so I'm okay to have a cataract for a little while. But yeah, now I've got to go in and obviously make sure that it's just a cataract and that the tumor hasn't grown again. But I at least get probably 10 or so months where I can be oblivious to cancer and I can enjoy living in this beautiful country. And I sort of have 2 months of like anxiety and organizing appointments. And in Australia, healthcare still isn't free. I'm still paying a little bit for an MRI and I'm still paying a little bit to see this doctor, but it's certainly not as intense as it was when I first arrived.
It's the same for me. I'm also paying for my medication and I have to pay for the actual insurance monthly.
Yeah,
So all in all, it's quite expensive not to be in Canada right now. But I also, as you said, you just want to kind of live life and have new experiences. And part of that is, you know, taking chances and
yeah,
and kind of being like, okay, let's see what this brings. So yeah, recovery
yeah.
is an interesting thing, but I agree with with the noise that sometimes comes.
Yeah, yeah. And I thought, I'll sometimes meet somebody new and to sort of tell them my story, and they'll say, "Oh, I had no idea." And I'm like, "Yeah, I try to live my life like that's not something that's going to define me, but every now and then I just need to talk about it because it does sort of come creeping back."
This experience has just made me like, well, look, things come up at any point. We have no insurances, even
Mhm.
when you have insurance. At
Yeah,
some point, we have to do what we want to do. So yeah, but I
yeah.
think that's where I find recovery an exciting journey.
I think for me, yeah, you just have to trust. You sort of have to, I guess, plan to have no hiccups. And when hiccups come, you've been there before. I feel like I've already heard the words, "you have cancer." That was a really hard thing to hear and go through. So that you sort of build up that resilience now where I'm like, if I do happen to hear that again someday, I'm definitely equipped to hear it again. But through recovery, I'm just gonna sort of blissfully work my way through my years, show up at my oncologist when I need to, have my scans, and really just hope for the best. Like you said, that's all you can do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it was really lovely to connect with you. I
Yeah,
hope you have
me
a great
too.
time in Australia. And
You enjoyed Japan.
yes, thank you.
It'll be great. Alrighty. Well, you have a good night.
You too.
Now, Ashley and Grant are a few years out of treatment, but still have to navigate follow-up care and checkups while still enjoying life and making the most out of where they are and what they are experiencing abroad. Now, the one thing I have to ask is, do you guys have space if a few thousand yackers want to come and visit you in Japan or Australia? Just kidding.
Welcome aboard the Recover Study. Bienvenue à bord de l'étude Rebâtir. It takes longer to recover from cancer than to be treated for it. At Young Adult Cancer Canada, YACC, recovery is about more than remission. It is about living a life worth loving, hopefully for the long road. Se rétablir d'un cancer prend plus de temps que son traitement. Chez Young Adult Cancer Canada, YACC, la guérison va bien au-delà de la rémission. C'est de vivre une vie qui en vaut la peine, et ce, nous l'espérons, pour longtemps. Recover is a community-led study where we work together to set the priorities and better understand life and cancer for young adults and how it affects your quality of life over time. Rebâtir est une étude menée par la communauté où nous travaillons ensemble pour établir les priorités et pour mieux comprendre la vie et le cancer chez les jeunes adultes et comment celui-ci affecte leur qualité de vie au fil du temps. We hope to enroll 2,000 people from all across Canada. Nous espérons inscrire 2,000 personnes de partout au Canada à l'étude. But who can take part? Young adults living in Canada who are over the age of 18 and were diagnosed with any type of cancer before the age of 40. Qui peut participer? Les jeunes adultes vivant au Canada qui ont plus de 18 ans et qui ont reçu un diagnostic de cancer de tout type avant l'âge de 40 ans. For more information or to participate, please fill out the sign-up form on recoverstudy.ca. Comment puis-je m'inscrire? Pour plus de renseignements ou pour participer, remplissez le formulaire d'inscription sur étuderebâtir.ca. Thank you for choosing to participate in the Recover Study. Merci d'avoir choisi, on l'espère, de participer à l'étude Rebâtir.
Now, this past year, amazing program manager at YACC, my friend I had a pleasure of meeting, Danny Taylor, has been offering Writing It Out groups, a 4-week therapeutic writing group that provides space, community, and prompts to help participants express emotions and experiences through writing, all over Zoom. It has produced some pretty incredible pieces. We will now join Danny Roulette, who will share a few writing pieces she created while participating in the Writing It Out group.
Thunderbird song. You're the strongest person I've ever met. You're going to be okay, someone said to me shortly after my diagnosis. I would think of these words often, usually when I was feeling like the most negative and the most bald person in Manitoba. I miss my hair very much. At the end of a September full moon ceremony, I held my braids in my hands like a baby and smoothed them over and over, savoring the familiar softness. I held the braids up to my chest and looked down, pretending they were still attached to my new blunt shoulder-length cut. I threw them into the fire and said a quiet miigwech for the strength and comfort my hair had always given me. I've given my prayers and thanks to countless sacred fires and ceremonies, danced under the summer sky in my jingle dress, offered tobacco for countless dreams. In some, I'm with my departed family. In others, I'm running through the night to the hospital with a blinding need to find answers. I've laid in a chemo stupor and swore I heard my mother's laugh on the other side of my bedroom wall. When I told my father, he looked worried and I wanted to tell him, no, it's not like that. I didn't mean it like that. During my most terrified moments, I envision I'm on the back of a black bear being carried across the land towards my healing. I whisper to Makwa that I know they gave their life to help me, and every time I hold my jar of bear grease, I remember this. Bear grease spread underneath my left arm and my left breast. Bear grease to remember that the Thunderbirds sung me home the evening of my diagnosis. Steel yourself, Quay. You are the strongest person some people have ever met, and you will be okay.
Oftentimes, I looked at recovery as returning to my old life before cancer. The truth is, I will never get back there, but I get to move forward and create a whole new story. I'm going to shut up now because we're going to hear from Jeff, the great leader, executive director at YACC and two-time cancer survivor, and Mike, thriver, father, husband, and Ironman. We'll have a chat about life, cancer, running, and everything in between.
Hey YACC Live, my name is Jeff Eaton, two-time cancer survivor diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia at 22 and 25.
Hi everybody, my name is Mike Daw, and I was diagnosed with metastatic papillary thyroid carcinoma at the age of 35.
We are on the 5th floor in a vacant office in downtown St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, overlooking the beautiful St. John's Harbor. I am bald. My friend Mike is not. I'm wearing a very light sweatshirt. My friend Mike is wearing a black sweatshirt. And you can see beautiful ocean in the background behind us and maybe even a boat leaving the harbor. We are here to be part of YACC Live and talk about and recovery. And beautiful that it happens that my buddy Mike here is almost 2 months out of his official remission status news that he got in February.
52 days, but who's counting?
You are.
Woo!
Beautiful. You are. And I'm on the other side of that in a significant sense. And last fall was 25 years since my original diagnosis. And certainly recovery changes over time. And I'm curious to hear, Mike, where you are in this space. I know you've been going through treatment for quite a while, but to be in that space of, transitioning mindset, I think, to being in remission, and how has that changed or adjusted your view of recovery?
Well, I'll say it out loud again because I can't say it enough. No, remission. What a wild concept, hey? I'd been chasing it for so long, and all of a sudden it's here and you don't know what to do with it. It's a very, it's a much better problem to have than trying to wrap your head around all the chaos and the pain and the shock and all those kind of nerves. If I look any lighter, it's because I very much feel like I have the weight of the world off my shoulders for right now. It is a major adjustment. I'm not walking around in the great stress I was. I didn't realize how much stress and pain and shock I was still carrying that I've had since day one. And the reality is, I remember, talking with the team on the day they gave me the news, and I was fist pumping. I was ready to rock and roll. They said, no, remember, and they've said this obviously since day one. This could come back. We have to do this every 3 months. We have to do this every 6 months. We have to do this every, between all the blood work, scans, ultrasounds, the human lab experiment continues. And I said, guys, you know how much I love and respect all of you? And so all that respect that I tell you, I do not care about any of that right now, because it is time to party. I know that, we got to stay on top of this, and we got to manage it. We got to, keep our head in the game here. But at least for right now, it's just been nice to just take some deep breaths, spend some time with the wife and kids, and just decompress a little bit.
It's that dichotomy is so typical of the cancer experience, right? Is even amidst the good news, which we hope we get and we're fortunate enough to get, there is a reality that at some point, depending on your disease, of course, and your status, there's a test or a blood test or a check or a scan in a month or 3 months or 6 months or 1 year or whatever it is. Balancing those two things, I think, is one of the many, I think, unique things about being a cancer survivor and being in recovery.
100%. And again, that's the same with any chronic type of condition, such as like the type of cancer that I had. Again, it's been a very transparent, honest conversation since day one that, this is quite possible to come back. And I'm not unaware of that. But I'm also not, like, if we don't celebrate this win right now, what are we doing? Ultimately, there is no finish line here. We just gotta, keep our, head in the game for where we are now. I'm all too aware of what may or may not happen down the road. But at the end of the day, who knows what's ahead in the rest of their life too. There's been too many unhappy tears shed to not enjoy the happy ones right now. And again, like, as you know all too well, 2 Septembers ago, I was told I was in remission. And then I got a call 44 hours later that my results were read to me wrong. We're sorry, Michael, and it's spread here, here, and here. I've been burned in this situation before. So hearing the news of remission and actually allowing myself to physically, mentally, and emotionally accept that was definitely a unique challenge in itself, because obviously I know it was an error the first time around. Obviously no one was trying to get me, but man, that like false remission, come on, man, that's a tough one to really just wrap your head around. And so, I didn't tell anybody for a while. I just got bit before, so I really had to protect myself. And, everybody's story is different. That's what I had to do to work through this and to accept this good news. But that's the way cancer works, man. Like, there's so many common threads, but every single person's story is different.
Yeah, and you're right. It is such a process. I know for me, it wasn't really a false remission, but it was a relapse. Getting to 2 years post-transplant, which was April 13th. On this day. So 2 years post-transplant, my doc said my risk for relapse would drop right off. So I had a beautiful party. Celebrated the end of my game, my series that I was playing, my virtual playoff hockey series. And almost that week, my blood starts to taper off, and 3 months later, it's so low that I have a bone marrow test, and they find out that my blood's low because my leukemia came back. And for me at that time, I felt like the first time I was diagnosed, I was really confident. I don't know where the confidence came from, but I was confident that I could take this on. And all the crazy stuff I went through, I was confident I could take it on. The second time, when I had the recurrence, the confidence in my health was just destroyed. I didn't feel the same way at all. It really kind of shook the foundation, if you will. And I can see now, like looking back, because I have some obviously considerable distance from that, how that confidence was restored over time. But it was a process. Yeah. And I gotta say, like 25 years out, some of the same things that gave me confidence then give me confidence now. And I'm the kind of guy that if I'm doing things that I feel are taking care of me, I feel better. I feel better about my health. I feel more confident in my health, more confident in my future, more confident in my dreams. Like if I'm sleeping, if I'm going to the gym, if I'm hiking the hill, like if I'm doing the stuff that I love and that I believe in, then I feel better about myself.
Little victories, man. Really and just, routines. And like I said, just small victories add up real fast. And it's funny you say that too, because like I found for all too long in this, I first got diagnosed when my wife was 33 weeks pregnant. She was, to say that rocked our world is the greatest understatement. I went on to have my first cancer surgery on a Monday, and then she delivered beautiful baby Darcy, our second, that Saturday night. it's easy to face this stuff when there's no options. You just got to circle the dates and when can you be, when can we do this and how fast can we do this and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's easy when there's no options and, again, when there's not also time to think about it. This is what we got to do. This is what we got to do it. This is what you got to do for prep. Check, check, check. And controlling the controllables was such a big thing for me and for so many others. But, again, it's scary when you're not mentally and physically occupied because, you're only human. Doubts, fears, uncertainties, the things you can't control, which can be a lot of this equation. When you aren't able to harness those things, man, it can get super scary. That's one thing I certainly found that, again, having scanxiety and, treatments coming up, especially leading up to this last round of radioactive treatment of my scans, it was a fear and an uncertainty. But man, just leaning on the things that work for me, which is different from you, different from the next person. That's what's got me through this. And, for me, that's running and swimming and especially just time with the kids and time with the wife. And, for right now, the prayers were answered. We are, and I'm saying we because I'm the name on the page, but man, does this ever affect more people than just that, the wife, kids. I've been going through cancer treatment the entirety of our daughter's life. She's finally got a father who's not an active cancer patient. What a beautiful thing that is, but again, to be leaning on the things that I love and that I get so much energy from, man, and we'll take that and whatever comes next, we'll deal with it as a team. But the last 52 days or so have been a nice, welcome, positive change.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love to hear you control the controllables. I love that thought.
100%.
You are so right. Cancer hits the patient and then it just creates this tidal wave around them to everyone who loves them, especially the partners and the kids if they're involved, and parents. It just sends a shockwave out, and we know that there's a lot of attention and resources, quite honestly, focused on that treatment space. Often for YACCers, it's after the treatment when the biggest challenges come for many, and that's why we're doing the Recover study, is to better understand that. It's why talking about survivorship and recovery is so important, because I think it's a huge part of the experience for patients. It's critical. Like I say so often, is it really success if you got rid of somebody's disease and you've left them on the other side of that experience with huge stress, no hope, real struggles and challenges financially and career-wise? Are we talking, is that success? Because that doesn't feel like success to me.
And the other parts of that don't show. Again, the amount of stress that I've been carrying day in, day out. And like I said, all right, let's do this, next date on the calendar, the next appointment is this. Decompressing from that and going through all that. It's not just, oh, you're in remission, you're good to go. Mentally and physically, you're put back together. Man, this lives on, and obviously, I'm really trying to, and I'm, getting some help to try to really work through this next phase. Same as, you see certain physicians or certain team members and they talk about the new normal. That phrase drives me crazy. It makes me feel like I'm settling, or that I have to accept that, it just makes it seem lesser than. Mm-hmm. That drives me bananas. The only thing worse than that is for me is, someone talking about how, I had a good cancer because, it was treatable and was dealt with. I've said it to you, and I'll say it again here, that the next person that says that to me, I'm going to powerbomb them through a table, because that drives me crazy. Right. So, you know what, man, it is not just as simple as disease, treatment, recover, good to go. But that's why I'm so glad to have found, the things that work for me, the way that I move through it, but also to connect with a community like YACC, because of the fact that, nothing even needs to be said. The community gets it. Just knowing that no matter what, there's people out there that you don't have to be silent about it. You don't have to feel like you're on an island. This stuff can happen. But there's other people here that have had similar experiences and hear what's worked for them or hear what's been beneficial, and to lean on each other as needed, man. It's been such a wonderful connection point for me. And again, to lean on YACC, just work through this as best you can. And have a bad day when you need to. Try to have more good ones than bad ones.
Realistically optimistic is one of my philosophies for life. And you tied it up beautifully, Mike, because I would love for everybody to know that it is a customized road that you're on. everybody, same diagnosis, same treatment, can be totally different experiences, and there's many different diseases, of course, and treatments. But as you continue to move forward in your recovery, we want you to know YACC's got your back, no matter what. And the community that Mike's talking about is so important and powerful. And we're learning more and more about that power. And we're so grateful that you're part of YACC. And we hope you will dive in and get what you need from it. Take what you need from it. We are so glad you connected with us on YACC Live tonight. My man, I am grateful for you, and grateful for you to be part of YACC Live and part of the YACC community. Thank you.
I am so glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Jeff. All right. My name is Mike Daw. On August 29th of this year, at 9:55 in the morning, I was diagnosed with metastatic thyroid cancer. This is one of those days where the emotions are really, really high. You know, it's so scary reading, like, your name at the top of the page, man. You could lose a lot of energy in terms of asking yourself, why the hell is this happening to me? You know, again, we got to focus on the way forward.
When he comes into a room, you can see his presence, but when you connect with him, you can feel his presence.
You know, I've done some really cool races and really cool initiatives through this. I'm very proud of what we've turned it into.
Okay, and we're back. Mike, Jeff, great stories. Oh my goodness. You guys are both Iron Men, if you ask me. I mean, to be able to go through something and just continue to be strong even when your faith gets shaken, it's absolutely amazing. And a lot of us have been going through that, and you know, it's something that's unfortunately going to continue. But if people can get and see this type of inspiration, they'll be able to go through it. You know, it's really scary, but we can do it.
Searching for answers? Talk to us. Call the Canadian Cancer Society's Information Helpline.
Now we have the chance to hear more powerful words written during the Write It Out group. Take it away, Danny.
Ogimakwe. Ogimakwe once told me that I didn't need to be sad. I know you still will be, but just so you know, they wouldn't want you to be, she says as she points her lips towards the graves of my Nokomis and Shumis, and then towards the fresh burial mound that now covered my mother. They're always with us, eh? Every teaching, every hug, ceremony will be your way through. I wouldn't know for many years how to carry my grief. It took full moon ceremonies, sweat lodges, spirit plates to bring me back to my ancestors. 8 years later, at 30 years old, I felt secure in myself. My hair now hung past my waist, my connection to the land, as my elders say, and I couldn't know that in 2 months, chemotherapy will cause it to fall out in crushing handfuls. I remembered then what Ogimakwe said. Ceremony will be my way through. Now, more than ever, I knew this to be true.
During treatment and recovery, I locked myself in the theater of my mind. I read books like Think and Grow Rich, The New Psycho-Cybernetics, The Law of Success, The Quick and Easy Way to Effective Speaking, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, every Dan Brown book, and more. I wrote over 200 songs and stories with 3 trilogies, a total of 181 scenes, all to trick my brain and reduce my stress related to cancer. Put your thoughts on paper and your mind in a book, it just might help. Carolyn and Carl Eric are incredible volunteers at YACC and are part of the Recover leadership team. They, with the help of other amazing team members, are helping us move the Recover study forward. They had a conversation about their path, where they've been, are, and where they are going.
I guess we should start with describing where we are, our surroundings, for those who that might be helpful to. So do you want to go first?
Well, I'm in my living room, set up for this interview, so there's not a lot of distractions behind me. And I just chose the most comfy place. I originally thought it was going to be the couch, but it's actually ended up being my guitar stool. Because feeling stressed, this is where I end up, and I feel quite at home where I am right now. How about you?
Good. I am on this couch in my bedroom. One side of me, I have very amazing people watching views. I'm in Toronto, so just watching that on this side. I've got a plant on this side. I am wearing kind of like a brown jumpsuit. My hair's up, and I'm going to be nursing this cup of tea as we chat.
I can go first because I think I started younger than you. Let's go chronological.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed when I was 6 years old, just before I turned 7. So my pre-cancer life was a lot of I'm the main character in my movie and I'm invincible. And life was my oyster and pretty carefree. I just come to Canada, learned the language, finished first grade, and nothing but optimism was my world. I had to come to terms with a lot when I got diagnosed, and it was pretty shattering to my identity at that time. And it forced me to grow up a lot pretty quick and come to terms with a lot of things, as well as shove things into a box and not deal with them until I was a mature adult. I'm curious
Wow.
about your pre-cancer life, or
So how many years ago was that? That was
that was 26 years ago.
wow. So I actually just celebrated, and I definitely don't use the word celebrated lightly. I am in celebratory mood right now. Celebrated my 10-year cancerversary. So this time, 10 years ago, 28 years old, doing 28-year-old things. The main identity piece that I think many of us latch onto is career based at that time. So I was kind of in my prime career wise. I had a very like busy, active social life, living downtown Toronto, healthy, eating well, physically active, and getting ready for kind of a level up, like a shift and level up in my career. But life had other plans in terms of what that kind of shift and level up would be. So I was preparing for a change. I didn't think it was this type of change that I was inevitably faced with. So
I am really
yeah,
curious to hear what a 28-year-old you versus a 38-year-old you defines recovery.
yeah. I think the word recovery is interesting, right? Because I think when we think about the word recovery, and most certainly when we're thinking of that word in our 20s, I don't think naturally, and naturally for me, I didn't think like cancer recovery. Right. So I didn't really understand anything about recovery, to be honest. And I don't know if many people experiences their first brush of uh, recovery in their 20s. I didn't have much to compare it to, which means that I felt very ill prepared for what was to come. Yeah. What about yourself? Like, I know you mentioned I think you were 6 years old, right? Like,
Yeah, it was.
is that even
I
in
think
your
it's.
vocabulary?
Yeah, it completely changed my perspective on life because, like I said, I was the star in my movie. I was invincible, and then to suddenly be told I have brain cancer and will probably go blind, if not die. I had to come to terms with life, the universe, and everything pretty quick. And at that age, I really incorporated that into my identity as I exist with the universe, not in it. And things just happen, and you have to learn to move and progress as optimally as you can for the life you want to live. And I eventually went blind when I was 16. And again, I had to redefine myself and find who I am. But still, recovery specifically up until my early 20s, which is funny that you kept saying that, really just meant how fast can I get out of the hospital and back to home and back to my normalcy of whatever that is at the time, which is usually video games, guitar, socializing. And it wasn't until my early 20s that I started getting into competitive sports, and I realized just how broken I was physically. And I had to recover my body in order to perform at my peak. Even that definition of recovery changed this last year when I joined YACC and learned just how much mental damage I had, trauma and unprocessed feelings and these hurdles to overcome.
I can say this for myself, that I've experienced feelings of anxiety is probably the best word to describe it. Anxiousness of trying to get back to that life, the life before cancer, right? Like, I think my family can attest to this, that literally within the same breath of my oncologist walking us through the plan, like very shortly after, you've been diagnosed with lymphoma cancer, this is what the treatment plan was. One of the first things I said was, okay, when can I get back to work? Right? Yeah. Family was like, even though I was there, I wasn't there to witness it, right? Because I was experiencing all the things, but they were saying that they were just like, are you kidding me? Is this like the thing that's on her mind right now? And what I had to learn was that, to kind of let go and not hold too tight of a grasp on recovering back to a past version of Carolyn. And that recovery for me meant discovering what might be up ahead, right? And I think part of recovery for me has included a great deal of grieving and and when I say grieving, I mean grieving parts of me.
Yeah, for me, it was a lot of emotional denial. I just crammed it in a box and didn't deal with it until YACC made me open it. Well, I was open to opening it. Yeah.
Like, what does life feel like now for Carl Eric, specifically as we experience life that is life? What helps keep you kind of grounded and moving forward?
That's a good question. Right now, I feel like I'm sprinting compared to laying in the fetal position in the corner, trying to avoid my emotions and health. And now I'm starting to deal with all those things. And it's been like a 10, 14-year journey now. First starting with my physical health. And really what's keeping me grounded is just every point of noticeable progress. I was a complete introvert, antisocial, recluse. And then I started doing sports, like I said, and I realized I can't move my right shoulder because my scar tissue is so tight and my body's so traumatically protective of my scars that I couldn't function. And so I had to do a lot of physiotherapy to take care of that. And then through that, release some emotional connectivity to it. And then I'm like, okay, this is a deep pool of feelings that I've got here holding me back from my physical progress. And as you deal with that, you start to realize you can run faster, you can perform better, you can talk to people. You're less self-conscious when you're socializing. And now it's keeping me grounded. It's completely different from what kept me grounded 10 years ago. Like 10 years ago, I would have sat down with my guitar and just played for 3 hours. Now I go out almost every night to the gym, to Dungeons and Dragons night, or now I'm just randomly going for walks and talking to strangers on the bus. It's completely different. And I love living life. So reality is keeping me grounded now. To have your world shattered at 28, I can't imagine. I was at 16 when I went blind, and that was, oh great, I can't drive my car.
Yeah. So I think it's so easy and normal and valid to feel like the world is spinning, right? Like things can feel so chaotic. And I think that for me, there were times over the past 10 years where there was so much more happening, like, to me, for me, around me, than I can humanly process, that I could have humanly processed. So I felt very much so like a delay. Oh, did this happen like 8 years ago? Did that actually happen? Or I would just get flashes of these images, and I would text message some of my friends and family and say, hey, I'm in this place and I'm feeling like a weird sensation. Like, did something happen around here? So, I really, people around me have really like helped me piece together the reality, some of the missing puzzle pieces that I have. All that's to say is that, like, again, it's easy to feel so overwhelmed and so spinny because there's so much more happening than we can like truly understand in that moment. So I think some things that help keep me grounded and going breath to breath is just reminding myself that I have so much evidence and proof in my life where at one point I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but I figured it out anyways. Everything from, when you were a baby and you don't know what walking is, right? You eventually like figure things out. I have a portfolio, right? Of when I entered this earth till now, of not knowing how to do something, not knowing how to work through something, not having the answers to anything, to figuring it out. So I thought to myself, if I have all of this evidence in my life of that, how dare I think that I'm not able to figure this out? I had to remind myself of my figure out ability skills, my capabilities, and my competencies, not from reading other people's stories or books or podcasts, but looking at myself. Even in those moments when I had a hard time reminding myself of my capabilities, I looked to my parents and my ancestors and the bloodline that I come from. My parents were refugees. They did not have an easy life, right? Definitely a lot of like survivorship and warriorism that I get from them. So whenever I forgot my own capabilities, I just reminded myself who I am, who I came from, and where I came from, and that resilience and that survivorship is in my DNA, it's in my blood. So that really helps ground me, keep me going, remind myself that I can figure this out.
So it sounds like you really pinned down your identity, to who you are and where you come
Yeah.
from, to figure out where you're going or to keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels really good to feel very just like sturdy and grounded with that. Like I feel very unshakable
No, that's a good
because
word.
of,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I learned a ton from talking to you, not just about you, but also I know the moment when we wrap this conversation, I'm going to be thinking about throughout the day and the weekend. So
Yeah.
yeah, thanks for chit chatting with me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I'm so excited to speak with everyone at YACC because everyone's got such a unique story and insights and pearls of wisdom.
Totally. Okay. We'll wrap up for now. I'll see you later.
Yeah. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Wow. So Carl Eric, diagnosed at 6, and Carolyn at 28. It's crazy how these things can impact your life and make you just think about it entirely differently. Just putting that mortality, bam, right in your face. But the thing is, once you have that feeling and you get beyond it, you start to think about the things that you can do, the things that you can enjoy, because that's what makes life so much more powerful. The fact that we're not here forever, and it's right now, and we can do something about it and enjoy the time that we have. Now we have the chance to hear from more powerful words written during the Writing It Out group.
Chokecherry summer. In those forests there was only ever love. Ni Baba would pull the van over, and Ni Mama would lead the way into the bush. Nishimi and I followed as Niji walked and held on to one of our arms. Buckets and buckets of chokecherries flowed between us. Our laughter carried into the trees as soft evening sunlight covered the golden brown shoulders of my family. On the days that the chemo and Lupron seemed to fight me the most, I wanted so badly to close my eyes and wish myself back there, to be untethered by this grief. What does it feel like to have my life saved by the same healthcare system that killed my mother at the age of 56? How many more years of addiction and homelessness can some of my loved ones handle? I should look for answers, come to terms with all of the trauma. But for now, I allow myself to be taken back to choke cherries and the smell of summer. Living with cancer has felt like attending a funeral in the middle of an impossibly cold Manitoba winter, adding one more log onto a sacred fire before a journey. Resilience, preparation for letting go, gritting your teeth and knowing the only direction is forward.
Now, Danny Taylor is our next segment. Danny is the program manager at YACC and is responsible for the creation and leadership of amazing program initiatives like the chat series, writing it out, and a lot of ideas for the content of the show that you're seeing here tonight. She is all of that, but also still recovering from a colorectal cancer diagnosis she received at 23, over 10 years ago. She will share about her physical recovery after cancer.
Hi, I'm Danny. I am the manager of programs at Young Adult Cancer Canada. I'm going to create like a blog of sorts. As much as I hate, truly, I hate perceiving myself in this way and talking to a camera. It is a bit hell for me, honestly. So be gentle on me, and I'm going to be gentle on me. And we're going to go through a little bit of a journey. A little over 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 3 colorectal cancer. Been out of treatment for, I guess, somewhat approaching that 10-year mark, like between 9 and 10, somewhere in there. I have something called Lynch syndrome, so I stay pretty active in the cancer care world of things. My most kind of like recent big thing would have been hysterectomy done. It'll be 2 years this summer to help kind of reduce some risk and give me a bit more comfort in my body. And that's what I'm here to talk about, is comfort in my body. So it's been a really long time since I was going through some of the thickest parts of cancer and cancer treatment. And yet I still connect so much of like how I feel about my body to that experience. I think in truth, how I feel about my body is a more complicated story. I came into cancer treatment and cancer diagnosis with already a pretty like complicated relationship with my body. I was somebody, and am somebody, that's kind of always been a bit of a thicker milkshake, a bit of a heavier girly. And that's been, you know, at times tough to move around in a body that's a bit bigger. My self-esteem and my body image has always been a little bit poor. I had this strange thing during treatment where, because my tumor was like in my digestive system, it blocked things off a lot. And so I lost a ton of weight in a short period of time. It was kind of a really strange thing for me because it was not done through healthy means. It was the first time that I had been thin or like, I don't know, probably even more fairly to say like mid-size. Like I was closer body composition wise to a standard that I'd wanted to be at for a really long time. And it was not done through healthy means. It was literally done through starvation. And that really kind of bungled me for a while. After treatment was done, I think from such like a place of lack, a place of like food is not pleasurable, food is painful, things went in like a pretty far other way. I would say like very fairly. I've had some binge eating issues. And so after treatment was done, I have gotten to a heavier place than I had ever been in. And the only times when my weight has like shifted in a downward direction has also been more motivated by stress. And so really largely, I think the theme of me and my body is that my body doesn't feel within my control. I think some people will like try to master that control and try to build that and repair that, or sometimes it can go maybe far in the other direction. I think for me, I've been in a place of fuck it for a long time. Fuck it in some ways because it doesn't feel like I could do much to prevent cancer because of the genetic lottery of it all. Fuck it in other ways because it was just too painful to have a relationship with my body. I'm finally sick of that, which is really nice. It's really nice to be sick of something that's not serving you. It feels like when you eat the same like you get really focused on the same little treat for a long time. You eat it. And suddenly one day you're like, oh, I could never eat that again. And I feel like that's kind of where I'm getting with my relationship with my body. I feel like I'm starting to be motivated by things a little less external, which is also nice. I think before in other like health journeys I've gone on, it's been more about like, well, I want to fit this standard, or I want to look this way for somebody else, or I want to look this way because this is what I'm supposed to do, or it's very like looks motivated, which I think is fair, but was never like a great place for me either to feel comfortable. But now I'm transitioning into I just want to like be connected with my body. I want to be friends. Just want to be friends. I want to pal around. I want my body to feel strong. I want to feel comfortable. And so that is a bit of what I'm journeying to do. We're trying to recover my physical body. For those that know me, I'm a very cerebral person. I think I live a lot through talking or writing and existing almost entirely in my brain. I think that served me for a long time, but now I need to invite my brain and my body to talk a little bit more. This isn't like a day one journey. In truth, I've been trying to like get on this since probably like December area. What does that look like? Every day I want to invite myself to move, even if it's just really gentle movement. I want to be aware and conscious of the fact that I am moving and doing something kind for my body. I want to be more mindful of like, what am I putting into my body and how does that fuel me? I want to build up a connection. I want to be more aware of how is my body feeling in a way that isn't only checking into pain or only checking into anxiety. So today I just got out of a Pilates class. I do a beginner mat class at Pony Pilates here in St. John's. It's crap outside. I was feeling a little bit tired, but after doing it, I feel great. It's really nice stretching. What I like about Pilates in particular, well, first of all, what I don't like is that it's kind of pricey. So highly recommend like YouTube videos and stuff like that if getting to a studio is outside of your means. I think it technically should be outside of my means. So the fuck was I saying? Oh, sorry, Pilates. What I like about Pilates is that it's so connected on like teaching me about my body. Like there's a lot of, at least the way my primary instructor goes about it, there's a lot of talking about like, well, what is your body doing? How is it feeling? What is like, this is meant to do this. And that's really helping me kind of heal a relationship to something that like I've just been husking around in. If you were to ask me like, how does that feel? I'd be like, baby, I don't know. I have severed that. And so that is why I like to do Pilates. So yeah, it went really great and I was fine. Thank you.
Between filming that video and now, Danny has tried her first spin class, joined a hot yoga studio, learned the local YMCA has a great view for indoor walks, and has regular swimming dates with her partner. She's also taken sick days when she's needed to. A non-scale victory has included maintaining a plank position and genuinely enjoying spending this time with her body.
Thank you so much, Danny, for that reminder to enjoy the time we have with this body. Now, in closing, to everyone who watched, everyone who shared, we thank you. Thank you to our partners at Canadian Cancer Society and Wellspring, and to all our incredible volunteers who made in-person gatherings possible. You rock our worlds. To all our guests, Ashley Wenland and Gret Calicorn, Carolyn Van, Carl Eric Senverson, Jeff Eaton, Mike Daw, Danny Roulette, and Danny Taylor. Thanks to YACC's team for their support in getting this show together. It was a blast for me to accompany you through it. Please feel free to find me at JOIITV on Instagram. This is where I share my stories, my songs, and my thoughts, and reach out for financial advice as I'm a life, health, and wealth advisor with RBC Insurance. I help people protect what matters most to them. Check out YACC for what is coming and all the ways you can connect with people who get it.